"Buy one, get one free," shouted the vendor. A cowboy bought two Apache women to save them. The town was busy that day. The sun was high in the sky and the air was warm and dry. People moved in different directions. Some were selling food. Some were buying tools, cloth, and animals. Children ran between the stalls. Horses were tied near wooden posts. The sound of voices filled the place. It was the kind of day when the market felt alive and active. A cowboy had just arrived in town after a long ride. His clothes were dusty and his boots were covered in dirt from the road. He was not looking for trouble. He only wanted to buy supplies and rest for a short time before continuing his journey. He had traveled for many days across open land. He was used to hard work and long rides, but he still enjoyed seeing new towns and meeting different people. As he walked slowly through the market, he noticed many traders calling out loudly to attract customers. They praised their goods and tried to get attention. The cowboy did not pay much attention at first. He was focused on finding the supplies he needed. He looked at ropes, food, and other basic items. Everything seemed normal. Then suddenly he heard a voice that was louder than the others. A vendor was shouting in a strong and excited tone. The cowboy stopped walking. The words caught his attention. The vendor was trying to get people to look at two women standing nearby. The vendor spoke as if he was offering a product, not people. The cowboy felt something unusual in his heart. He turned his head and saw the scene clearly. Two women stood close together. They looked uncomfortable and quiet. Their eyes showed fear and confusion. They did not speak. They stayed close to each other as if they were trying to feel safe. The cowboy noticed that they were not free to move. The situation did not feel right to him. The vendor continued speaking loudly, trying to make the offer sound attractive. He smiled and acted as if this was just another trade. Some people in the crowd listened with interest. Others passed by without stopping. It seemed like a normal business moment to many people there. But to the cowboy, it did not feel normal at all. He felt a deep sense of concern. He had seen many difficult things in his life, but this was different. The way the women were being treated made him uncomfortable. He believed that every person deserved respect. He was raised with strong values about fairness and honesty. Even though he was not a man who spoke much, he knew right from wrong. For a few moments, he just stood there quietly. He watched the crowd. He observed how people reacted. Some people laughed. Some talked among themselves. No one seemed to question the vendor. The cowboy felt alone in his thoughts. He knew that if he walked away, he would continue his day as planned. But something inside him would not allow him to forget what he had seen. He thought about his own life. He had worked hard for every coin he earned. He understood the value of money. It was not easy to give it away. He had plans for that money. He needed supplies, food, and possibly repairs for his horse. Spending money on something unexpected would change his plans. He knew this clearly. Still, his eyes returned to the two women. They stood silently. One of them looked down at the ground. The other looked around carefully, as if searching for hope. The cowboy noticed their expressions. He could see that they were trying to stay strong. Even though the situation was difficult, they did not show open fear. They remained calm on the outside. The cowboy felt a strong feeling growing inside him. It was not anger. It was not fear. It was a sense of responsibility. He believed that when someone sees a wrong situation, they should think carefully about what they can do. He understood that acting too quickly could cause problems, but doing nothing could also feel wrong. He moved a little closer, pretending to look at other items. This allowed him to observe without drawing attention. He wanted to understand the full situation before making any decision. He noticed that the vendor seemed confident. The vendor believed people would simply accept the offer without question. This made the cowboy even more serious in his thoughts. The cowboy considered the risks. Helping in such a situation might bring conflict. It could create arguments. It might even lead to danger. He was aware of this. Life on the frontier was not always safe. People sometimes reacted strongly when challenged. The cowboy knew he had to think wisely. At the same time, he remembered the importance of courage. He believed that true strength was not only about physical power, it was also about moral strength. A strong person should protect those who cannot protect themselves. This belief guided him in many parts of his life. The noise of the market continued around him. Vendors shouted, horses moved, people negotiated prices, but in his mind everything felt quiet. He was focused only on the two women and the decision he might need to make. Time seemed to slow down as he thought carefully. He did not want to act in a way that would cause harm. He wanted to find a solution that would help. He knew that if he decided to step forward, he must remain calm and respectful. His goal would not be to create conflict, but to change the situation in a peaceful way. After standing there for several minutes, he felt more certain. He understood that he could not simply walk away. His heart would not allow it. He decided that he would at least try to do something. Even if the outcome was uncertain, he believed it was worth the effort. With a steady expression, he prepared himself to approach the vendor. He took a deep breath and adjusted his hat. His movements were calm and controlled. He did not show anger or fear. Instead, he showed confidence. He was ready to speak and learn more about the offer. As he walked toward the stall, the sounds of the market seemed to fade behind him. His focus was strong. He knew that this moment might change his day, and possibly more than that. But he felt prepared to face whatever came next. The cowboy walked toward the stall with steady steps. His face looked calm, but inside his mind was busy. He did not want to act without thinking. He knew that in a busy town, every action could be seen by many people. So he moved in a respectful way, without rushing or showing strong emotion. As he came closer, he could hear the vendor speaking loudly again. The vendor was trying to attract attention. He described the offer in a proud tone, as if it was something special. Some people were standing near the stall. They were listening and looking. A few were talking quietly to each other. The cowboy noticed that many people avoided looking directly at the two women. It seemed easier for them to ignore the situation. The cowboy stopped in front of the stall. He looked at the vendor and gave a small nod. The vendor noticed him and smiled. The vendor thought the cowboy might be a regular buyer. The cowboy spoke in a calm voice and asked questions about the offer. He did not show anger or judgment. He kept his tone friendly and simple. The vendor explained the details. He spoke about the price and the conditions. He acted confident and proud. The cowboy listened carefully. While listening, he also observed everything around him. He noticed how the two women stood quietly. They did not speak. They looked at the ground most of the time. The cowboy felt a strong sense of concern again, but he remained calm. He knew that if he wanted to help, he needed to think clearly. He could not make a decision based only on emotion. So he continued asking questions in a polite way. He wanted to understand the full situation. The vendor seemed surprised that someone was showing so much interest. Most people either walked away or quickly agreed to buy. But this cowboy was different. He wanted to understand. After some time, the cowboy asked about the price again. He acted as if he was serious about the purchase. The vendor became more excited. He believed he had found a buyer. The vendor spoke quickly and tried to make the deal sound attractive. The cowboy nodded slowly, pretending to think about it carefully. Inside, the cowboy was planning. He knew that if he showed too much interest too soon, it might raise suspicion. So he kept his expression neutral. He asked about the condition of the women and whether there were any extra terms. The vendor answered in a simple way, thinking only about completing the sale. During this conversation, the two women remained silent. One of them looked up briefly and met the cowboy's eyes for a short moment. In that moment, the cowboy felt a strong message without words. Her eyes showed hope mixed with worry. The cowboy understood that this was not just a normal trade. It was a serious matter. The cowboy took a small step back and looked around the market again. He wanted to be sure there were no immediate risks. Everything seemed normal, but he stayed alert. Life on the frontier required awareness. He knew that situations could change quickly. After thinking carefully, the cowboy decided to continue. He told the vendor that he might agree to the deal. The vendor's face showed excitement. The crowd around them became slightly more interested. Some people stopped to watch. They were curious about what would happen next. The cowboy asked one final question about the total cost. He spoke clearly and calmly. The vendor gave the final amount. It was a large sum, but the cowboy did not react with surprise. He had expected that it would not be cheap. He reached into his pocket and felt the money he had saved. He paused for a moment, thinking again. This money was important to him. He had worked hard for it. He had planned to use it for his journey and personal needs. Spending it now would change his plans. But he remembered why he had come forward in the first place. He believed that sometimes plans must change when something important appears. The cowboy made his decision quietly. He agreed to the price. The vendor quickly prepared the papers and arranged the exchange. The crowd watched with interest. Some people whispered, others simply observed. The cowboy kept his focus steady. As the transaction was completed, the vendor looked satisfied. The cowboy handed over the money carefully. He made sure everything was clear and understood. He did not rush the process. He wanted the situation to be fully correct and peaceful. When the exchange was finished, the vendor stepped aside. The two women were now no longer under the vendor's control. The cowboy felt a mix of emotions. He felt relief, but he also knew that his responsibility was not over. The town was still crowded. He needed to act wisely in the next steps. He turned to the women and spoke gently. He introduced himself in a respectful way. His voice was calm and kind. He explained that he had not bought them for harm or control. He said clearly that he wanted to help them find safety. He spoke in simple words so they could understand easily. The women listened carefully. At first, they did not respond. They were unsure about trusting him. The cowboy understood their hesitation. He knew that trust takes time, so he did not pressure them. He gave them space and waited patiently. He also noticed that some people in the market were still watching, so he decided it was best to leave the area soon. Staying longer might create confusion. He signaled the women to follow him calmly. He moved toward his horse, leading them away from the center of town. As they walked, the cowboy kept a steady pace. He did not rush them. He wanted them to feel safe. The women followed quietly. The crowd slowly returned to its normal activity as they moved farther away. The market sounds became softer behind them. When they reached a quieter area, the cowboy stopped for a moment. He checked that no one was following. Everything seemed peaceful. The sky remained clear, and the wind moved gently across the open land. For the first time since the decision, he felt a little calm. He understood that this was only the beginning. Now he had to think about where to take them next. He wanted to choose a place that would offer safety and respect. He also needed to consider the journey ahead. The land could be long and open, and travel required preparation. The cowboy looked at the women and spoke again in a gentle tone. He told them that he would help them reach a safer place. He asked if they were ready to continue. They looked at each other briefly, then gave a small sign of agreement. In that moment, a quiet understanding began to form. The cowboy had taken a risk, but he believed it was the right thing to do. The market behind them was now just a memory. Ahead of them was an uncertain path, but also a chance for a new beginning. After leaving the busy market area, the cowboy led the way toward a quieter road. The sun was still bright, but the noise of the town slowly faded behind them. The land outside the town was wide and open. There were small hills in the distance, dry grass on the ground, and a long road that continued far ahead. The cowboy knew this land well. He had traveled through similar places many times before. He walked in front with confidence, but he stayed alert. Life in open country required attention. He checked the surroundings often. He listened to the wind. He looked at the path ahead. Although everything seemed peaceful, he understood that unexpected situations could happen. His horse followed calmly, carrying some of his belongings. The two women walked behind him at first. They were quiet. They were still trying to understand what had just happened. Only a short time ago, they had been standing in a crowded market. Now they were outside the town with a stranger. It was not easy for them to trust the situation quickly. The cowboy understood this. He did not rush them or demand conversation. After some time, he slowed down his horse and turned slightly to speak. He used a calm and respectful tone. He told them again that his intention was to help. He explained that he did not want control or trouble. He wanted them to reach a safer place where they could live with dignity. He kept his words simple so they could understand clearly. One of the women looked at him carefully. She studied his face, trying to judge his honesty. The other woman remained close to her companion. They exchanged a few quiet words in their own language. The cowboy did not interrupt. He waited patiently. He believed that trust should grow naturally, not by force. The road ahead was long. The cowboy decided to stop for a short rest in a shaded area near some trees. The women seemed tired from standing and walking. He tied his horse to a tree branch and removed his hat. The air felt slightly cooler under the shade. It was a good place to rest for a few minutes. He took out some food from his bag and offered it to them. He did not force them to accept it. He simply placed it on a flat rock nearby and stepped back. This small action showed respect. After a moment, they accepted the food quietly. The simple meal helped ease some tension. While they rested, the cowboy explained more about his plan. He said he wanted to take them toward a region where they could meet people who would treat them fairly. He mentioned that the journey would take time, but he would stay with them until they reached a safer location. His voice was steady and honest. The women listened closely. They began to feel slightly more comfortable. The cowboy's behavior was patient and respectful. He did not ask personal questions. He did not try to control their movements. Instead, he allowed them to sit freely and rest. As the sun moved across the sky, the cowboy checked the path again. He knew that traveling in daylight was safer than moving at night. He also understood that reaching safety would require careful planning. He adjusted the saddle on his horse and prepared to continue. Before leaving, he made sure the women were ready. He asked if they felt strong enough to travel further. They nodded gently. Their expressions were calmer than before. The cowboy felt relieved to see this small change. It meant that trust was slowly growing. They began walking again. The land stretched far in every direction. In the distance, birds flew low over the grass. The wind moved softly. The journey felt long, but the cowboy maintained a steady pace. He did not want to tire them. He matched his speed to theirs. During the walk, he shared small details about the land. He pointed out safe water sources and explained how to find shelter if needed. He wanted them to feel prepared, not helpless. His goal was not only to take them somewhere, but also to help them feel stronger during the journey. As the afternoon passed, they reached a small stream. The water flowed gently over stones. It was a good place to rest again. The cowboy helped them step carefully near the water. He allowed them to drink and refresh themselves. The sound of the stream created a peaceful atmosphere. While they were there, the cowboy sat a short distance away to give them privacy. He cleaned his hands in the water and thought about the events of the day. He knew that many people might not understand his decision. Some might question it, but he felt confident that he had done what he believed was right. The women noticed his respectful distance. This action increased their trust. They began to feel that he was not like others they had encountered before. His calm behavior showed sincerity. Slowly, they started speaking more with each other, no longer whispering with fear. The cowboy listened quietly to the natural sounds around them. He stayed watchful but relaxed. After some time, he stood up and prepared to move again. He explained that they should reach a more secure area before nightfall. Darkness could make travel more difficult. They agreed and followed him once more. As they walked, the sky began to change color. The bright blue slowly turned into soft shades of orange and pink. The cowboy felt the day coming to an end. He searched for a suitable place to set up a temporary camp. He found a small open space near some rocks that could protect them from strong wind. It was not a large camp, but it was safe for one night. He tied his horse again and collected some dry wood. He carefully prepared a small fire. The fire would provide light and comfort, but he kept it controlled and small. The women sat near the fire, keeping a respectful distance at first. The warm light helped them feel calmer. The cowboy shared a little more food and ensured they were comfortable. He did not try to lead unnecessary conversation. He allowed silence when needed. As night approached, the stars began to appear in the sky. The cowboy looked upward for a moment. The clear sky reminded him of how wide and open the world was. He felt thankful that the day had gone safely so far. Before resting, he checked the surroundings one more time. He wanted to ensure there were no dangers nearby. Everything seemed quiet. The wind was gentle. The land was still. He sat near the fire, keeping watch while the women rested. His plan for the next day would depend on how the night passed. He knew the journey was not finished, but he felt proud of the progress made. Trust had started to build. Fear had begun to reduce. The night in the open land was quiet and cool. The small fire gave soft light, and the cowboy sat nearby, keeping watch. The two women rested on the ground with blankets that the cowboy had offered. The sound of the wind moved gently through the grass. Far away, a few animals made soft noises, but nothing seemed close enough to cause worry. The cowboy stayed awake for most of the night. He wanted to make sure they were safe. As the hours passed, he thought about the journey ahead. He knew the road would not be easy. The land was wide, and sometimes it could be empty for long distances. Water and food would need careful planning. He also understood that reaching a safer place would take patience. Still, he felt calm about his decision. He believed he had done the right thing. When morning light slowly appeared in the sky, the cowboy woke up fully. The air was fresh, and the sun began to rise behind the hills. The light made everything look peaceful and new. He checked his horse first, making sure it was healthy and ready to travel. Then he looked around the camp area to confirm that the night had passed safely. The women also woke up. They looked more rested than before. The cowboy greeted them politely and offered some water. He wanted to make sure they were strong enough for the next part of the journey. They drank the water and stood up slowly. Their expressions were calmer now. The fear that had been visible before seemed to be reducing. Before leaving, the cowboy spoke again about the plan. He explained that they would continue moving toward a region where people respected fairness and safety. He did not give too many details, but he assured them that he would stay with them until they reached that place. His steady voice made them feel more confident. They packed their simple belongings and prepared to travel again. The cowboy carefully put away the fire, making sure no sparks remained. He did not want to leave any risk behind. Once everything was ready, they started walking along the path. The morning journey felt easier than the previous day. The air was cooler and the light helped them see the road clearly. The cowboy walked slightly ahead, guiding the way. He checked the surroundings regularly. He was careful but not worried. The land seemed calm. During the walk, the women began to speak more with each other. Their voices were still quiet, but they seemed more relaxed. The cowboy noticed this change and felt encouraged. He understood that comfort takes time. Trust grows step by step, not in a single moment. After some time, they reached a wider road where other travelers sometimes passed. The cowboy knew this route would lead toward a larger settlement. He decided it was best to travel on a path where help could be found if needed. He adjusted his direction slightly to stay on the safer track. As they continued, they met a small group of travelers heading the same way. The cowboy greeted them politely. The travelers were curious, but the cowboy kept the conversation simple. He did not share unnecessary details. He remained focused on his responsibility. The group traveled together for a short distance. This made the journey feel less isolated. The presence of others created a sense of safety. The women seemed more comfortable walking with a few more people nearby. The cowboy stayed close to them to ensure they felt secure. By midday, the sun became stronger. The group decided to rest near a small open area with shade. The cowboy helped find a suitable spot where everyone could relax. He continued to show respect and patience. He offered water again and made sure the women were not tired. During the rest, one of the travelers asked about the cowboy's journey. The cowboy answered politely but did not go into too much detail. He preferred to keep the focus on moving forward. His main goal was to reach the safe destination. After the break, they separated from the group and continued on their own path. The cowboy felt that it was important to keep the journey simple and direct. He guided the women carefully, ensuring they stayed close. As the day moved forward, the land began to change slightly. Small signs of a settlement appeared in the distance. Smoke from chimneys could be seen far away. The cowboy knew they were getting closer to their destination. He felt a quiet sense of progress. When they finally reached the edge of the region he had planned for, the cowboy stopped. He explained that this place was known for fair treatment and community support. He said that they would find people here who could help them start a new life. The women looked around with interest. The environment felt different from the market town. There were more families, quiet streets, and a calmer atmosphere. The cowboy guided them toward a local center where responsible community members gathered. He spoke respectfully with local leaders and explained the situation in a simple way. He asked for assistance in helping the women settle safely. His calm behavior and honest tone helped others understand his intention. The community members listened carefully. After discussion, arrangements were made to provide support. The women were offered a safe place to stay and assistance in connecting with their people. The cowboy made sure everything was clear before stepping back. He wanted to confirm that they were in good hands. Before leaving, he turned to the women and spoke kindly. He said that it was time for them to begin their new chapter. He wished them strength and peace. The women expressed gratitude in their own way. Their expressions showed relief and appreciation. The cowboy felt satisfied but humble. He did not seek attention or praise. He believed that helping others was its own reward. He adjusted his hat, prepared to leave, and mounted his horse. As he rode away from the settlement, he thought about the entire journey. It had started in a crowded market and ended in a safer place. The decision he made had changed not only their lives, but also his own understanding of courage. The cowboy rode away slowly from the settlement, feeling the cool air on his face. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky with soft colors. Orange, pink, and light purple spread across the horizon. He did not look back at first. He wanted to give the women space to begin their new life without feeling watched or controlled. As he continued down the road, he thought about everything that had happened since the morning in the market. It had started as a normal day. He had only planned to buy supplies and rest, but life had changed his plan. Sometimes, he realized, the most important moments come without warning. A simple walk through a town had turned into a journey that would stay in his memory forever. He remembered the crowded market, the loud voices, and the surprising offer shouted by the vendor. At that moment, many people had treated the situation as normal business, but he had seen something different. He had felt that he could not ignore it. Now, riding alone again, he felt calm about his choice. He believed courage is not about fighting. It is about doing what is right, even when it is not easy. The road became quieter as he moved farther away. Night was approaching again. The cowboy decided to find a safe place to rest before continuing his own journey. He found a small area near some trees. The ground was flat and there was water nearby. It was not far from the main path, but it was peaceful. He tied his horse and sat down for a moment. The fire he made was small and controlled. The flames gave light but did not attract too much attention. He took a deep breath and looked at the stars appearing one by one in the sky. The night felt calm. The sound of nature surrounded him. As he sat there, he began to reflect deeply on what he had learned. He realized that helping others had given him a stronger sense of purpose. Before this journey, he had often traveled alone, focused only on his own needs. Now he understood that actions taken for others can bring a different kind of satisfaction. The next morning, he continued traveling toward his home area. His mind was peaceful. He did not feel regret about the money he spent. Instead, he felt that he had used it for something meaningful. He believed that wealth is not only measured by coins, it is also measured by the good one does in life. Days passed as he returned to familiar lands. He stopped at small towns along the way. In each place, he noticed that people talked about news and events, but he did not share his full story. He was not interested in praise. He preferred to stay quiet about his actions. For him, the true reward was knowing that two lives had gained a better chance. One evening, while resting in a small town, he heard people discussing fairness and kindness. Listening quietly, he felt hopeful. He realized that change happens slowly. When one person makes a brave decision, others may also begin to think differently. Small actions can inspire larger understanding. Meanwhile, back at the settlement where he had taken the women, life was beginning to settle into a new rhythm. The local community had provided support as promised. The women were given safe space and assistance. They had time to rest and rebuild their strength. Slowly, they began to feel more secure. They were introduced to people who could help them reconnect with their background and culture. They learned that there were others who cared about their well-being. This gave them hope for the future. The memory of the market still existed, but it no longer defined their lives. The women often remembered the calm cowboy who had spoken gently and acted with respect. They understood that his decision had changed their direction. Without his courage, their path might have remained uncertain. They felt grateful for his honesty and patience. Back on the road, the cowboy continued his usual work. He helped farmers, guided travelers, and repaired fences when needed. His daily life returned to normal, but something inside him had grown stronger. He now understood that responsibility is not limited to one moment. It is a way of living. Sometimes, while resting under the open sky, he would think about the women's eyes when they first met his gaze. That brief moment had stayed in his memory. It reminded him why he had chosen to act. It reminded him that people can show hope even in difficult situations. Months later, news reached him that the women were doing well. They had begun rebuilding their lives in the safe area. They were learning new skills and connecting with supportive members of the community. Hearing this made the cowboy feel peaceful. He did not seek recognition, but knowing they were safe was enough. As time moved on, the cowboy's story slowly became known among a few people, not as a tale of wealth or power, but as an example of kindness. Some travelers shared the story as inspiration. They spoke about how one person's decision can create positive change. The cowboy himself remained humble. When asked about it, he would simply say that he did what felt right. He believed everyone has the ability to choose kindness. He did not think of himself as special. He saw himself as someone who followed his values. Years later, when he grew older, he often sat outside his home at sunset. Watching the sky change colors, he would think about the wide land he had traveled. He remembered the market, the road, the campfire nights, and the settlement. All those memories became part of his life story. He understood that life is full of unexpected turns. Sometimes people plan one thing, but destiny leads them somewhere else. The important part is how they respond. He chose to respond with courage and care. That choice shaped his journey in a meaningful way. The women, now living safe and stable lives, also carried the memory of the cowboy's decision. For them, it was not about the market or the transaction. It was about the moment someone treated them with respect and gave them hope. That memory gave them strength as they moved forward. In the end, the story was not only about one purchase. It was about humanity, responsibility, and quiet bravery. It showed that even in difficult environments, one thoughtful action can create a better path. The cowboy returned to his simple life, but he carried something more valuable than money. He carried the understanding that doing good is always worth the effort.